Welcome back to KultureByte. I'm Kevin, and Tron Ares just dropped one of the weirdest, and I even have more questions after that ending. We've got Ares becoming human, Quorra maybe dying off screen, and a mid-credit scene that basically resurrects a villain from 1982. Let's bite into that ending and mid-credit scene of Tron Ares. At the end of Tron Ares, we see that Ares is now a human being of sorts. He officially has the Permanence Code, or what Kevin Flynn would call the Impermanence Code, because that means he could actually die, because I guess you could say he's human. It's not really confirmed what exactly he is, but from there on, we see that he is traveling the world, sending Eve Kim, the CEO of Encom, a postcard about his travels. And we see that he's following a news clipping of Sam, Flynn, and Quorra. And then we actually even see a picture of Quorra with some coordinates on it. It says last seen on the picture. So I wonder if that's where he's going. But if you look closely, now I'm not entirely sure, but this kind of looks like Quorra is getting a little bit bald. Are they saying that when she exited the grid herself, that she wasn't stable? She didn't have a permanence code, and maybe it led for her possibility having cancer? I don't know. They really didn't touch much on legacy. They included some things, but they didn't really touch much on it. They combined elements of the 1982 film and the 2010 film, but going on to the mid-credit scene, we see Julian Dillinger, after the events of what happened in the movie, is officially in the Dillinger system grid. So he's in his own grid that he created, but after it was basically nuked and destroyed. He is there just taking it all in. So as he was typing to get his grid activated again, we see that there was a Sark, which is basically a callback to the villain of the first Tron movie, the Master Control Program's lieutenant. And we see that a disc, a white on red disc, which is again very reminiscent of the 1982 Tron film, appeared. As he grabs it, we see that he basically gets taken over, and I would say the program Sark, as you know, it basically is like his grandfather and slowly gets taken over. I don't think they have intentions of continuing this story or potentially making like another trilogy after following the box office of a poor reception of doing worse than Morbius and rumors that, Hollywood or Disney is basically going to retire Tron, and it's not really looking good. But also, there are some rumors that big things are coming. So who knows? But how did we get here? Let's give you some background, some context about what has happened in this film. So we begin the movie with a past broadcast of Kevin Flynn, played by Jeff Bridges, talking about the grid and just talking about how going into that world and somehow that world coming to us. We see a lot of past news broadcasts to basically recap what has happened since the 1982 film to the 2010 film to now the 2025 film. As we see Kevin Flynn went missing, then we know that Sam Flynn took over, but it wasn't really a great success for Encom. Sadly, we never saw Sam Flynn in this film except for through news clippings and just hearing some things about him. But apparently, he left Encom for personal reasons. So I wonder if this is because Quorra got sick and he was trying to figure out how to keep her alive, possibly. And he even appointed the Kim sisters, Eve and Tess Kim, to take over Encom as a co-CEO. Eve did more of the video game side, while Tess was doing more humanitarian things, trying to learn to create life, find medicine, and just help humanity with a better world. And then we also learn about the Dillinger systems. Julian Dillinger taking the company after his grandfather, which was the Master Control Program in the original Tron, and also plays Sark. In Tron Legacies, Killian Murphy played Edward Dillinger, but now it seems like they have their own company now, and basically it's a good company versus evil company type of standoff. You have the red Dillinger systems, and then you have the blue Encom, a good company. We learned that both companies are at a point where they can make a huge discovery that will take them to the next step, but they're both stuck at one point. And we see Julian Dillinger actually creating Ares, named after the Greek god of war, because basically Julian is making these programs and is trying to make the grid come to life or come to our world, because he's actually thinking of it as a more military style use. He's thinking about how he could make money off of this in a military contract, compared to the Kim sisters, who want to do just more humanitarian things and just make video games. We see he creates Ares by basically de-resing him multiple times, training him to defend himself. He creates his own grid. He basically makes Ares the Master Control Program. And if you think about it, Ares is also like his version of Tron, but for the Dillinger system, as he calls, Ares a security program. From there, he even shows a presentation with Ares and how it's possible for stuff that's in the grid to come to life to his board members. You even see that Ares is kind of interested in rain, because I guess this is his first time he comes out of the grid, perhaps. But we learned that he and anything created from the grid can only stay out of the grid for 29 minutes. And after 29 minutes, they derez and basically fall apart. But of course, they can be remade. But the whole entire premise of this film is trying to find a permanence code like that they could permanently stay within the real world after they exit the grid. From there, we pick up with Eve Kim as we see that she's out in Alaska or Antarctica, one of the two, trying to basically find the permanence code and continue her sister's research as we later find out that her sister actually died because of cancer. They're searching for it and they find that the permanence code is actually in an old 1982 server that Kevin Flynn had. They end up putting the code to the test by making an orange tree from the grid and see if it can last longer than 29 minutes, and it does. It actually lasts a while. Eve Kim flies back, and Julian decides that it's time to hack into NCOM to see if they have found the code because he knows that Eve is looking for the code. He hacks into NCOM, and I really like the entire scene of the way he hacks into NCOM because it basically shows Ares and like a group of his programs, his military programs, breaking into the NCOM grid. And I love the fact that we see a war between two different grids in a way. Like it's a whole entire battle, and they have to fight each other off and everything. And this is actually when we get a cameo from Cameron Monogram or Cal Kestis from the Star Wars Fallen Jedi series. He literally appeared though to die and to like show Ares about empathy, I guess. But then Julian basically drops a nuke onto the grid and kills his own people, but basically disables the NCOM servers. From there, Ares hacks all of E's files and basically learns a lot about her and learns how she felt about her sister, learns that her sister died, and even finds out that they have the permanence code. Julian decides that he basically wants to bring her back, but what he does is he has Ares and Athena chase her down, and it leads to a whole entire light cycle chase, which is like really cool. It was really nice to see it interact, like a light bikes interact with the real world. And then from there, Julian decides that he wants to put Eve into the grid, and he has this cool gun that can shoot people basically into the grid. And I really like the combination of what they did, bringing someone into the grid and then bring back the effect of the original 1982 film from when someone is zapped into the grid. But he shoots her into the grid. She gets sucked into the grid, and the only way they can get the permanence code out of her is to basically kill her because she broke the USB disk that she actually had it on. She'll basically die in both worlds, and Julian is actually okay with that, as long as he gets his permanence code. And Ares disobeys. He's an AI kind of just learning to be on his own in a sense, and he has been getting like feelings. He decides to basically break Eve out of his prison. Athena, named after the Greek goddess of wisdom, was made the new MCP, and she starts chasing down Ares. This leads to another cool chase in the grid. It's cool seeing how the Dillinger grid looks. They luckily make it to the transfer portal and they're able to transfer back, which I think is kind of interesting and crazy that the fact that an organic life was able to basically be like 3D printed back to life. And I like wonder what the implications of E being printed like 3D again. Like, I'm just curious about that. But then from there, they basically lead onto a race to find a way to get the permanence code for Ares because he just wants it for himself, which is just very selfish, but it's also very interesting. They lead to a chase all the way back to Encom Tower. Julian sends Athena to get Eve once again and do whatever it takes. They find a way to basically shoot Ares into the old server that Flynn had, and luckily they were able to fight Athena long enough for her to get the red. Ares is basically walking around the old 1982 grid, which is just amazing. Then a bit shows up, which also appeared in the original 1982 Tron film, which just looks crazy in this modern like day setting, and it's just cool to see. Then we see the old gold light cycle from the 1982 Tron film. That's the one that Kevin Flynn rode on. We see a crack that happened when Tron and Flynn managed to escape the light cycle battles. Athena fully takes the reins. She kills Julian's mother, makes a recognizer, and basically hunts down Eve. And Eve is, trying to distract Athena because her team back at Encom are trying to find a way to reverse what the connection from the laser gun to the Dillinger systems like that, they could shut it down. The bit leads Ares to Kevin Flynn. Now, it's not really explained why Kevin Flynn is alive or even here. He basically said that I'm here because you kind of wanted me here in a sense. And I really wonder if it's maybe because when Ares was going through Encom's files, he also got a lot of like Kevin Flynn's files and was able to compile them and make it into another like AI. Like, I'm not really sure. They didn't really explain it quite well, because I'm not saying he was dead at the end of Tron Legacy, but I wouldn't say he was exactly alive. Eve is trying to distract Athena, and Athena basically traps her. There's like a jet fighter pilots coming through. For the most part, they're all nothing against Athena's force. It's really cool though, just to see also that a jet fighter just interact with a recognizer and just get completely obliterated. Ares officially gets the permanence code, but Kevin Flynn calls it the impermanence code because he basically becomes human and you can die. Ares comes back through the old Flynn arcade, which is now run down, which is kind of sad to see. I love the way that they show him coming back, like black, black, block, very classic 1982 style. Like it was really cool. They really called back a lot from the 1982 film. From there, his lights are basically off. He's running now, and he finally makes it, and he gets his disc, and his disc is now like white. Perhaps now because he is a user and not a program. Ares and Athena get into like a whole entire big fight, disc versus disc. But Athena finds out that he has a permanence code and they fight, and the diligence system manages to be disconnected. Athena does get defeated by Ares and she slowly de-reses. When the cops are coming for Julian, an old backup appears on the screen as we see Sark. He decides that it's best for him to try his chance in the grid. Ares just has a moment with Eve as he asks if she's still going to quit her job, but she says she now has some ideas. Then Ares disappears. We see Eve at the top of Encom Tower with her digitally printed orange trees, where she gets a postcard from Ares. Making puns now, I guess? Now we see that Ares is traveling looking for Sam or Quorra or the two, and Julian finds himself in his own grid as the Sark disc calls out to him and is now taken over by the old program. But now with this type of ending, you have to hope that Disney has a sequel in mind, maybe the battle between the two different grids. Also, one has to think that Ares is looking for Quorra to possibly help with her deterioration. One also has to ask, where is Sam? Is it possible that he himself was lost in the grid, or did they both go back into the grid to possibly find Quorra a solution to her condition? One also has to ask if Kevin Flynn is alive. I remember he became like Raiden at the end of Tron Legacy, but does that mean he's officially dead? And why would he send Quorra out to the real world if he knew about the permanence code? Like, why didn't he think of that? If he had it already, or if he knew it was a thing, why didn't he give Quorra the permanence code so that she could like survive outside? But they didn't really touch much on what happened between the events of Legacy in this movie. Also, now that the two Dillinger family members are gone, could we see Killing Murphy return as Edward Dillinger and work with his nephew Julian to destroy Enicom? Possibly. And my last question, but most importantly, where the is Tron? You can't have a Tron movie, but don't show Tron at all. Like, Legacy had 5 minutes of Tron, but at least he showed up. I thought he would even show up when Julian was hacking Encom, but nope. No Tron. So what did I think about Tron Ares? Honestly, I didn't think it was bad. I do think it was basically a retelling of Tron Legacy in a way because there was a lot of elements that happened in that movie that reminds me of this movie that are very much the same. You know, pretty much like a AI that just wants to go out in the world that's basically thrust out in the world, you know, luckily given a permanence code though and could survive. But I do feel like it adds a lot more questions about the lore of Tron. I know a lot of people don't like Jared Leto, and I'm not really a fan about him being attached to this film, but he did add that very just AI type of feel to the character. But honestly, I'm just hoping we get another Tron film and don't have to wait another like 15 or 20 years for it because I feel like there's a lot to explore in the film. And visually, this movie is amazing. Just love the way it looks and its aesthetic, and I just want to keep it going. So yeah, Tron Ares might not be perfect. It's weird, it's messy, it's Jared Leto doing AI cosplay, but it's also one of the most visually stunning and ambitious sci-fi movies we've had in years. It brings the Tron universe back in a big way, throws out more questions than answers, and somehow makes the grid feel alive again. And honestly, I'll take that over another reboot that plays it safe. But now I want to hear from you. What did you think happened to Korra? Is Kevin Flynn really gone, or are they out looking at some kind of digital reincarnation? And how wild would a grid versus grid war sequel be? Drop your theories down below. Hit that like button if you want Disney to finally stop ghosting this franchise, and subscribe if you want more ending explain videos just like this. I'm Kevin. This is Culture Byte, and until next time, stay connected to the grid.